The snow fell sideways through the Chicago night, sharp as broken glass. It cut through the darkness, swirling under streetlights, piling up on empty sidewalks where no one dared to walk. Not in this neighborhood. Not after dark. Not when Luca Moretti was coming home. The black armored SUV turned onto Riverside Drive at exactly 11:47 p.m. inside. Luca sat in the back seat, hands folded in his lap, eyes closed. He looked like he was sleeping, but he was not. Luca Moretti never slept in cars. Too many men had died that way, thinking they were safe inside steel and bulletproof glass. The driver, a man named Vincent with 20 years of service and 3 bullet scars, glanced in the rearview mirror. He knew better than to speak unless spoken to. The boss did not like small talk. The boss did not like anything that wasted time. The SUV slowed as it approached the iron gates of the Moretti estate. 10-foot-tall gates, black as midnight, topped with spikes that gleamed even in the dark. Behind them stood a mansion that looked like it had been carved from stone and money. 40 rooms, 12 bathrooms, a wine cellar worth more than most people would earn in 10 lifetimes. Vincent pressed the remote. The gates swung open with a soft mechanical hum. And that was when Luca saw her. A shape, small, hunched, pressed against the brick wall just outside the gates, trying to hide from the wind. A homeless woman wrapped in layers of torn clothing, a ragged blanket pulled over her head. She was shivering so hard Luca could see it even from inside the car. He had seen her before. Every night this week. Same spot, same blanket, same invisible existence. Luca looked at her for exactly 2 seconds. Then he looked away. Vincent drove through the gates. The iron closed behind them with a heavy clang, shutting out the cold. Shutting out the snow. Shutting out the woman who had nowhere to go. The SUV pulled up to the front entrance. Vincent stepped out first, scanning the area the way he always did. Left, right, shadows, roofline, every angle. Then he opened Luca's door. Luca stepped out into the bitter cold. He wore a $15,000 black wool coat, Italian leather shoes that cost more than a used car, and a suit tailored so perfectly it fit like a second skin. His breath turned to white smoke in the frozen air. He took 3 steps toward the front door. Then the world exploded. The gunshot cracked through the night like thunder. One shot. Clean. Professional. Coming from the shadows across the street where no one should have been. Luca's body reacted before his mind could catch up. 20 years of survival instinct screaming through his nerves. He dropped low, hand reaching for the gun at his waist. But he never finished the motion. Something slammed into him from behind. Not a bullet. A body. Small. Fast. Throwing all its weight into his back, shoving him forward and down. Luca hit the ground hard. His face scraped against frozen concrete. His coat ripped. His gun fell from his grip and skidded away into the darkness. And then he heard it. A soft sound. A terrible sound. The sound of something wet hitting the snow. Blood. Luca rolled over, gasping, his mind trying to make sense of what had just happened. Vincent was screaming into his radio. Lights were flashing on all over the estate. Guards were pouring out of the house with weapons drawn. But Luca saw none of it. He saw only her. The homeless woman lay crumpled on the ground beside him. The ragged blanket had fallen away. Her face was pale as death. Her eyes were half open, cloudy, staring at nothing. And from her shoulder, blood was spreading across the white snow like a dark red flower blooming in winter. She had taken the bullet meant for him. Luca stared at her. His breath came in short, sharp gasps. His hands were shaking. He could not remember the last time his hands had shaken. Boss. Vincent was beside him, trying to pull him to his feet. We had to get you inside. Now. But Luca did not move. He could not move. He was frozen in place, staring at the woman who had just saved his life. A woman he had walked past every night without a second glance. A woman he had treated as if she did not exist. And then she spoke. Her lips barely moved. Her voice was so soft Luca almost missed it over the chaos around them. But he heard it. He heard every word. Elena, she whispered. My name is Elena. Luca's world stopped. Elena. He knew that name. He knew that voice. Even after all these years. Even through the layers of dirt and cold and pain. No, he whispered. It cannot be. But it was. Elena Cross. The woman who had raised him. The nanny who had held him when he cried after his parents were murdered. The woman who had disappeared 15 years ago without a word, without a trace, without an explanation. And now she was dying in the snow outside his gates. Luka felt something crack inside his chest. Something he thought had died years ago. Something he had buried beneath power and violence and the weight of an empire built on blood. He moved without thinking. His hands slid beneath her back and under her knees. He lifted her off the ground. She weighed almost nothing, nothing at all, as if she had been starving for months. As if she had been dying slowly, one day at a time, while he lived in luxury just beyond these gates. "Get Dr. Russo," Luka said. His voice was cold, steady, the voice of a man who gave orders that were never questioned. But inside, he was screaming. "Get him now. If she dies, everyone dies." Vincent ran. Luka carried Elena toward the house. Blood from her wound soaked through his expensive coat, spreading across the white silk lining. He did not care. He did not care about anything except the woman in his arms whose heartbeat was growing weaker with every second. The snow continued to fall. The wind continued to howl. And somewhere in the darkness, the shooter was still out there. But Luka Moretti was not thinking about shooters or enemies or danger. He was thinking about a little boy who had lost everything. And a woman who had saved him once before, a long time ago, in a different kind of darkness. The medical wing sat in the east corner of the estate, behind 3 locked doors and a security system that cost more than most people's homes. Luka had built it 10 years ago after a rival family tried to poison him. He trusted hospitals about as much as he trusted priests. Which was to say, not at all. Dr. Marco Russo arrived within 12 minutes. He was 60 years old, gray-haired, with hands that never shook no matter how much blood he saw. He had been the Moretti family's private physician for 25 years. He knew better than to ask questions. Luka laid Elena on the steel operating table. Under the harsh fluorescent lights, she looked even worse. Her skin was gray. Her lips were blue. Her breathing came in short, shallow gasps that sounded like she was drowning. "Save her," Luka said. His voice was quiet, too quiet, the kind of quiet that came before storms. "I do not care what it costs. I do not care what you have to do. Save her." Dr. Russo pulled on surgical gloves. "I will do my best." "Your best is not good enough," Luka said. He stepped closer. His eyes were black as oil and just as cold. "If she dies, you die. Your wife dies. Your children die. Your grandchildren die. Do you understand?" Dr. Russo's hands froze for just a moment. Then he nodded. "I understand." "Good." Luka turned to leave, but he did not leave. He stood in the doorway, watching. His body wanted to walk away. His mind told him he should return to the main house, call his security team, find out who had tried to kill him tonight. But his feet would not move. So he stayed. He stayed and watched as Dr. Russo cut away Alina's filthy clothing. Watched as the doctor cleaned the wound. Watched as blood continued to pool on the table beneath her. And Luka saw things he had never noticed before. Scars. Alina's body was covered in scars. A long, thin line across her left shoulder blade. The kind of scar a knife leaves. Another on her right side, just below her ribs. A stab wound, old, healed years ago. And on her wrists, faint marks that looked like rope burns. Luka stared at those marks. His jaw tightened. His hands curled into fists at his sides. This was not the body of a homeless woman. This was the body of someone who had been hurt. Someone who had been held captive. Someone who had survived things that would have killed most people. "The bullet went through," Dr. Russo said without looking up. "Missed the bone. Missed the major arteries. She was lucky." "Lucky," Luka repeated. The word tasted bitter in his mouth. He watched Dr. Russo work for another hour. Watched the doctor stitch Alina's shoulder back together with tiny, precise movements. Watched him insert an IV line into her arm. Watched him inject something that finally made her breathing slow and steady. And then, finally, Dr. Russo stepped back. "She will live," he said. "But she has lost a lot of blood. And she is severely malnourished. Her body has been under extreme stress for a long time. Months, maybe years. She needs rest. And food. Real food." Luka nodded slowly. "How long until she wakes?" "A few hours. Maybe more. The pain medication will keep her under for a while." "Good." Luka finally turned away from the operating table. "No one enters this room except you and me. No one knows she is here. If anyone asks, you were called to treat a guard who injured himself during training." Understood? Understood. Luca left the medical wing. He walked through the empty hallways of his mansion, past walls decorated with paintings that cost more than most people would earn in their entire lives. Past rooms filled with furniture so expensive it was kept behind velvet ropes in museums. But he saw none of it. He saw only Elena, the way she had looked 15 years ago, standing in the kitchen of his childhood home, making breakfast and singing softly to herself. The way she had smiled at him when he came home from school. The way she had held him the night his parents were killed, whispering that everything would be okay even though they both knew it would never be okay again. Elena had been more than a nanny. She had been the only person who had ever truly cared about him. The only person who had seen him as a child, not as the heir to a criminal empire. And then she had disappeared. One day she was there. The next day she was gone. No note, no goodbye, just an empty room and questions no one could answer. Luca had been 17 years old. Old enough to take over his father's business. Old enough to become the boss. But not old enough to understand why the one person he trusted had abandoned him. He had looked for her. Spent months. Spent money. Sent people to search every corner of Chicago. But Elena Cross had vanished like smoke. Eventually, Luca stopped looking. He told himself she had betrayed him like everyone else. He told himself she had never cared. He told himself it did not matter. He had lied. Now Luca stood in his study, staring out the window at the snow-covered grounds. The gates. The spot where Elena had been huddled against the wall, freezing, starving, invisible. And he realized something that made his stomach turn. She had been there for a week. 7 nights. Right outside his gates. And he had walked past her every single night without recognizing her. Without even seeing her. Luca's hands began to shake again. He pressed them flat against the desk, trying to stop the trembling. But it did not work. For the first time in 15 years, Luca Moretti felt something he had forgotten how to feel. Shame. Elena woke slowly, as if she were swimming up from the bottom of a dark ocean. Everything hurt. Her shoulder burned like someone had pressed a hot iron against her skin. Her head pounded. Her mouth was dry as sand. But she was alive. She opened her eyes carefully, squinting against harsh white light. Slowly, the world came into focus. A ceiling. Medical equipment. The steady beep of a heart monitor. She was in a hospital room. No, not a hospital. Too quiet. Too private. This was something else. Elena tried to sit up. Pain exploded through her shoulder and she gasped, falling back against the pillow. Do not move. The voice came from the corner of the room. Deep, calm, familiar in a way that made Elena's heart stop. She turned her head. Luca Moretti sat in a chair beside her bed. He wore the same clothes from last night, still stained with her blood. His black hair was messy, falling across his forehead. Dark circles shadowed his eyes. He looked like he had not slept. He probably had not. Where am I? Elena's voice came out as a whisper, rough and broken. My estate. The medical wing. Luca did not move from his chair. He just sat there, watching her with eyes that gave nothing away. You have been unconscious for 14 hours. Elena closed her eyes. 14 hours. The plan had gone wrong. She had stayed too close. She had been seen. And now she was trapped inside the one place she had sworn never to enter again. The bullet? She asked. Went through your shoulder. Missed the bone. You were lucky. Lucky, Elena repeated. She almost laughed, but it hurt too much. Silence filled the room. Not comfortable. Not easy. The kind of silence that pressed down like a weight, demanding answers. You saved my life, Luca said finally. His voice was still calm, still controlled. But something underneath it was not calm at all. Why? Elena kept her eyes closed. She had prepared for this moment. Rehearsed what she would say. The lies she would tell. But now, looking at him, the lies would not come. I do not know, she whispered. You do not know. Luca stood up. His chair scraped against the floor. You threw yourself in front of a bullet for someone you do not know? I did not say I do not know you. Elena opened her eyes and looked at him. Really looked at him. He had changed so much. The boy she had raised was gone. In his place stood a man built from steel and shadows. A man who ruled Chicago's underworld with an iron fist. A man people feared more than death itself. But his eyes were the same. Dark brown, searching, full of questions he was afraid to ask. Then you remember me, Luca said. It was not a question. I remember you. You remember me. Luca's voice rose slightly. The control was cracking. "You remember me, and yet you let yourself become homeless? You let yourself starve outside my gates for a week? You let me walk past you every night without saying a single word?" Elena said nothing. What could she say? The truth? The truth was too dangerous. Too complicated. Too painful for both of them. Luca moved closer to the bed. "I looked for you, Elena. When you disappeared, I looked everywhere. I spent months trying to find you. I thought you were dead. I thought someone had killed you. And all this time, you were alive. You were in Chicago. You were." He stopped. His jaw tightened. "Why did you leave?" "I had to." "That is not an answer." "It is the only answer I can give you." Luca stared at her for a long moment. Then he turned and walked to the window. He stood there with his back to her, hands in his pockets, shoulders tense. "I have built an empire in 15 years, he said quietly. "I control half of Chicago. I have more money than I could spend in 10 lifetimes. I have power that kings would envy." He paused. "But I could not find one woman who used to make me breakfast every morning." Elena felt something crack inside her chest. She had forgotten how much she cared about this man. No, not a man. The boy she had raised. The child she had loved like her own. "I am sorry," she whispered. "Sorry." Luca laughed, but there was no humor in it. "You are sorry. That makes everything better." He turned back to face her. His eyes were hard now. Cold. The eyes of a mafia boss, not a lost boy looking for answers. "Who shot at me last night?" he asked. Elena's heart began to race. The monitor beside her bed beeped faster. She tried to keep her face neutral, but she knew Luca saw it. He saw everything. "I do not know," she said. "You are lying." "I am not." "You are lying," Luca repeated. His voice was ice. "You knew that shooter was there. You knew exactly where the bullet would come from. You knew exactly when to move. That was not luck, Elena. That was training." Elena said nothing. Her mind raced, trying to find a way out. But there was no way out. Not anymore. Luca pulled a phone from his pocket. He tapped the screen a few times, then turned it to face her. Elena's stomach dropped. On the screen was a video. Black and white security footage. She saw herself on the screen, moving through shadows, slipping past cameras, tracking Luca's movements. And in the alley, she saw herself take down an attacker with movements that were fast, precise, and deadly. "My head of security found this footage this morning," Luca said. "He brought it to me 2 hours ago." "And do you know what he said?" Elena could not speak, could not breathe. "He said you move like someone with military training. Or intelligence training. Or the kind of training that assassins have." Luca put the phone away. "So I will ask you again, Elena. And this time, I want the truth. Who are you? Why were you watching me? And who sent you?" Elena looked into his eyes. The eyes of the boy she had loved. The eyes of the man he had become. And she made a choice. "No one sent me," she said quietly. "I came back on my own." "Why?" Elena took a deep breath. The pain in her shoulder flared, but she ignored it. "Because someone is going to kill you, Luca. And I could not let that happen." Luca went very still. "Who?" Elena closed her eyes. And then she spoke the words that would change everything. "Your cousin. Marco Moretti. The man you trust most in this world. He is the one who wants you dead." Luca did not move, did not speak, did not breathe. He just stood there, staring at Elena as if she had spoken in a language he did not understand. "No," he said finally. His voice was flat, empty. "You are wrong. I wish I was. Marco is family. He is my cousin, my second in command. He has been loyal to me for 10 years. He has been lying to you for 10 years. Luca's hands curled into fists. "You have been gone for 15 years. You have been living on the streets. You have lost your mind. Marco would never." "Marco ordered the hit last night," Elena said. Her voice was stronger now, cutting through his denial. "He hired the shooter. He picked the time and the place. He knew you would be alone when you came home. He knew Vincent would open your door on the south side, not the north. He knew exactly where you would be standing. And he knew you would die." "Stop." Luca's voice was a growl. "Dangerous. Stop talking." "I cannot stop. Because if I stop, you will die. And I did not take a bullet for you just so you could walk into the next one blind." Luca moved faster than Elena expected. One moment he was across the room. The next, he was beside her bed, leaning over her, his face inches from hers. "Prove it," he said. His voice was soft, deadly. "Prove Marco betrayed me. Show me evidence. Because if you are lying, if this is some kind of trick, I will put a bullet in your head myself." Elena met his stare without flinching. Check his phone records. The burner phone he thinks no one knows about. The one he keeps in his car. Check the calls from last week. You will find a number that belongs to Anthony Castellano. Luca's eyes widened just slightly. The Castellanos are our enemies. They are Marco's partners. That is impossible. Marco helped me destroy the Castellanos 5 years ago. He burned their warehouses. He let them escape first. He warned them before the raids. He has been working with them the entire time, Luca. Marco does not want to work under you anymore. He wants to be the boss. And the Castellanos promised they would back him if he gave them half your territory. Luca straightened up slowly. His face was unreadable, but Elena knew him well enough to see the cracks forming in his control. How do you know this? He asked. Elena hesitated. This was the moment she had been dreading for 15 years. The moment when all her secrets would come spilling out. Because I have been watching him, she said quietly. For 2 years, I have been following Marco. Recording his meetings. Documenting his calls. Gathering proof. Why? Elena's throat tightened. Because 15 years ago, Marco murdered my younger brother. The words hung in the air like a knife. Luca stepped back. What? My brother's name was David Cross. He was 19 years old. He worked as a driver for your organization. Small jobs. Nothing dangerous. Until Marco gave him a special assignment. He told David to deliver a package to the Castellanos. David did not know the package was evidence that would make Marco look guilty of skimming money from your father. Elena's voice was shaking now, but she forced herself to continue. David figured it out. He was not stupid. He realized Marco was setting him up. So he confronted Marco. Told him he was going to tell your father the truth. She paused. 3 days later, David's body was found in the Chicago River. The police said he killed himself. Jumped off a bridge. But I knew better. I knew Marco killed him. Luca sank into the chair beside her bed. His face had gone pale. Why did you not tell me? He asked. You were 17 years old. Your parents had just been murdered. Marco was the only family you had left. I had no proof. Nothing but a mother's instinct and a sister's rage. Who would believe me? Elena looked at him with tears in her eyes. So I left. I disappeared. And I started gathering the proof I needed to destroy him. 15 years, Luca whispered. You spent 15 years hunting him. I spent 15 years making sure I could protect you when the time came. Because I knew eventually Marco would try to take your place. And I knew he would kill you to do it. Luca was silent for a long time. Outside the window, the snow had stopped falling. The morning sun was rising, painting the sky orange and pink. If what you are saying is true, Luca said finally, then I have trusted a murderer for 10 years. I have given him access to everything. My finances, my operations, my life. Yes, if what you are saying is true, then everyone I love is in danger because I was too blind to see what was right in front of me. Yes. Luca stood up. Wait here. Where are you going? To find out if the woman I love is telling the truth. Or if the cousin I trust is a liar. He left the room before Elena could say anything else. Before she could tell him that she had heard what he said. Before she could tell him that yes, she loved him too. She always had. The door closed. And Elena was alone. Adrian Cole sat in his small office on the second floor of the Moretti estate, staring at 3 computer screens and wishing he had chosen a different job. Maybe a teacher. Teachers did not have to watch video footage of their boss almost getting killed. He was 42 years old, ex-military, with gray hair that made him look older and eyes that made him look dangerous. He had been Luca Moretti's head of security for 8 years. 8 years of keeping a man alive who 100 people wanted dead. The door opened without a knock. Only one person entered rooms without knocking. Show me everything, Luca said. He looked like he had not slept. He probably had not. Adrian did not ask questions. He turned his laptop to face Luca and pressed play. The first video showed the front gates of the estate. Camera 1. 11:43 p.m. the night before. Adrian fast-forwarded to 11:46, then let it play at normal speed. The homeless woman appeared in the frame. She was not looking at the gates. She was looking up, at the roofline of the building across the street. At a shadow that Adrian had not noticed the first time he watched this footage. There, Adrian said, pausing the video. Look at where she's looking. She knows someone is up there. Luca leaned closer. His jaw tightened. Adrian pressed play again. They watched the SUV pull through the gates. Watched Luca step out. Watched the woman suddenly move, fast and low, exactly 1 second before the muzzle flash lit up the roof across the street. She did not react to the gunshot, Adrian said. She moved before the gunshot. That means she knew it was coming, Luca finished. Yes. Adrian switched to the next video. Camera 2. A wider angle. This footage showed the woman after the shooting. She was on the ground, bleeding, but still moving. Trying to crawl toward something. What is she reaching for? Luca asked. Adrian zoomed in. Your gun. The one you dropped when you fell. She was trying to reach your gun, not run away. She was trying to protect you. The third video was the one that changed everything. Camera 3. Alley 2 blocks away. 11:52 p.m. The woman stumbled into frame, holding her bleeding shoulder. 2 men appeared behind her. Big, armed, professional. They caught her halfway down the alley. The first man reached for her. Fast, but she was faster. One motion. Clean. Precise. Her hand flashed up with something metal. The man's throat opened. Blood sprayed. He dropped. The second man pulled a gun. She kicked it out of his hand, broke his knee with her heel, and disappeared into the shadows before he hit the ground. 3 seconds, Adrian said quietly. She killed one man and disabled another in 3 seconds. That is not luck. That is training. Luca said nothing. He just watched the footage again. And again. And again. There is more, Adrian said. He pulled up a different file. I ran facial recognition on her. Nothing came back. Either she has never been arrested or someone scrubbed her records. So I started digging another way. He opened a folder filled with photographs. Surveillance photos taken over the past week. She has been outside your gates every night for 7 days, Adrian said. But she was not just sitting there. Look at this. He showed Luca a series of photos taken from different angles. Each one showed the woman watching the estate. But not like a homeless person watching a mansion. Like a soldier watching a target. She was mapping your routine, Adrian said. Learning your schedule. Calculating angles. She knew exactly when you would arrive home. She knew exactly where you would be standing. She was not there by accident. She was there on purpose. Luca looked at the photos for a long time. Then he looked at Adrian. I need you to check something for me, Luca said. His voice was calm. Too calm. I need you to check Marco's phone records. All of them, including any phones he does not think I know about. Adrian went very still. Marco? Yes, boss. Marco is your cousin, your second in command. If I investigate him and he finds out. If he finds out, I will protect you. But I need to know. I need to know if he has been in contact with the Castellanos. Adrian stared at Luca for a moment. Then he nodded. It will take time, maybe a few days. Marco is careful. You have 3 hours. 3 hours is not 3 hours, Adrian, because if what I suspect is true, we do not have days. We might not even have hours. Adrian understood. He turned back to his computer and started working. His fingers flew across the keyboard, pulling up databases, hacking into phone company servers, tracking numbers that most people did not even know existed. Luca watched in silence. Outside the window, the morning sun climbed higher. The snow on the grounds began to melt. Water dripped from the edges of the roof. 2 hours and 43 minutes later, Adrian stopped typing. His face had gone white. Boss, he said quietly. You need to see this. Luca moved behind him and looked at the screen. Phone records. Dozens of calls. All made from a number registered to a burner phone bought with cash 3 months ago. All made to the same number. A number that belonged to Anthony Castellano. When was the last call? Luca asked. His voice was ice. Last night, 10:47 p.m. 1 hour before you came home. Luca closed his eyes. Just for a moment. When he opened them again, something inside him had changed. Something had broken. Something had died. Get me everything, he said. Every call. Every text. Every meeting. I want to know exactly what Marco has been doing for the past 3 years. Yes, boss. And Adrian? Yes? Tell no one. Not the other guards. Not the staff. No one. If Marco finds out we are investigating him, he will run. Or he will strike first. Adrian nodded. Understood. Luca left the office. He walked through the empty hallways of his mansion. Past guards who nodded respectfully as he passed. Past maids who kept their eyes down. And he thought about his cousin. His blood. The man he had trusted with his life. The man who had betrayed him. Luca's hands began to shake again. But this time, it was not fear. It was rage. Marco Moretti stood in the garage of the Moretti estate, talking on his phone. He thought he was alone. He thought no one could hear him. He was wrong. Luca stood in the shadows near the door, listening. "Everything is set," Marco said into the phone. His voice was confident, relaxed, the voice of a man who thought he had already won. "The shooter missed last night, but it does not matter. Luca thinks it was the Castellanos. He has no idea I am the one behind it." A pause. Marco listened to whoever was on the other end. "No, we do not need to wait," Marco said. "We move tomorrow night. Luca is going to the warehouse on 5th Street for a meeting. I will make sure his security is light. You bring your people. We take him out. Clean. Simple." Another pause. "And then Chicago is ours," Marco said. He was smiling. Luca could hear it in his voice. "Luca's empire becomes my empire. And I will give you the territories we agreed on. 50-50. Partners." Luca stepped out of the shadows. Marco turned. The phone fell from his hand and clattered on the concrete floor. His face went white. "Luca," he said, "I was just planning my death." Luca finished. His voice was soft, deadly. "I heard." Marco's eyes darted to the door. Calculating. Wondering if he could run. Wondering if he could reach the gun in his jacket. "Do not," Luca said. "If you reach for that gun, I will put a bullet through your knee. And then I will ask you questions. And you will answer them. And it will be very painful." Marco froze. "How long?" Luca asked. "How long have you been planning this?" Marco said nothing. "How long?" Luca's voice rose, echoing through the garage. 3 years, Marco said finally. His voice was bitter, angry. 3 years I have been planning to take what should have been mine from the beginning. Yours? Luca stared at him. Nothing was ever yours. Everything should have been mine. Marco shouted. Your father was going to make me his successor. He told me. He said I was smart, capable, better than you. But then he died, and suddenly you were the boss. You, a 17-year-old boy who did not know anything about running an empire. So you decided to take it from me. I decided to take what I deserved. Luca laughed. It was a terrible sound. You deserve nothing. You are a coward, a traitor, a snake. Marco's face twisted with rage. I am the one who built this empire. I am the one who made the deals. I am the one who eliminated your enemies. You just sat on your throne and pretended to be powerful. And you murdered an innocent boy to cover your tracks. Marco went still. What? David Cross, 19 years old, a driver. You killed him 15 years ago because he found out you were stealing from my father. I do not know what you are talking about. Yes, you do. You killed him and threw his body in the river. And then you told everyone he jumped. That he killed himself. Luca took a step closer. But his sister knew better. She knew you murdered him. His sister? Marco's eyes widened. The nanny? Elena? Yes. Marco started to laugh. The homeless woman outside the gates? That was Elena? The woman who raised you? He shook his head. This is perfect. This is absolutely perfect. She saved your life last night. Took a bullet for you. And you are going to die anyway. Maybe I will kill her too. Just to finish what I started 15 years ago. Luca moved faster than Marco expected. One moment they were 5 feet apart. The next moment, Luca's hand was wrapped around Marco's throat, slamming him back against the wall. You will never touch her, Luca said. His voice was a whisper. But the rage behind it was a bonfire. You will never even think her name again. Do you understand? Marco tried to speak, but he could not. Luca's grip was too tight. Do you understand? Luca repeated. Marco nodded. Luca released him. Marco collapsed to the ground, gasping for air. I should kill you right now, Luca said. Put a bullet in your head and bury you in the woods where no one will ever find you. Marco looked up at him. Fear and hatred warred in his eyes. But I am not going to do that, Luca said. Because that would be too easy. Too quick. You do not deserve a quick death, Marco. You deserve something much worse. What are you going to do? Luca smiled. It was not a kind smile. I am going to destroy you. I am going to take everything you have worked for and turn it to ash. I am going to make you watch as your plans crumble. As your partners abandon you. As your empire dies before it is even born. Luca leaned down, his face inches from Marco's. And then, when you have lost everything, when you have nothing left, I am going to hand you over to the people you betrayed. And they will do things to you that will make death look like mercy. Marco's face had gone gray. Luca straightened up. Adrian, he called. The door opened. Adrian stepped inside with 2 guards behind him. Take him to the basement, Luca said. Lock him in the secure room. No phone, no visitors, no one talks to him except me. Understood? Yes, boss. The guards grabbed Marco and dragged him out. He did not fight. He did not scream. He just stared at Luca with eyes full of hatred. When they were gone, Luca stood alone in the garage. His hands were shaking. His heart was pounding, but his mind was clear. Elena had been right. Marco had betrayed him, his own blood, his own family. And now Luca had a choice to make. He could fight, could wage war against the Castellanos and everyone else who had allied with Marco. Could spill more blood and build his empire even stronger. Or he could do something no one would expect. Something that would change everything. Luca pulled out his phone and made a call. Adrian, he said, gather everyone, all the senior people. I need a meeting in 1 hour. And bring Elena. She needs to hear this too. Elena sat in the conference room on the 3rd floor, surrounded by men in expensive suits who looked at her like she was a ghost. She wore borrowed clothes, a simple sweater and jeans that one of the maids had brought. Her shoulder still hurt, but Dr. Russo had given her pain medication that made it bearable. Luca had not spoken to her since he left her room hours ago. But he had sent Adrian to bring her here. To this meeting. Whatever was about to happen, she needed to see it. The door opened. Luca entered. He looked exhausted, older, as if he had aged 10 years overnight. Behind him came 2 guards carrying something between them. No, not something. Someone. Marco. They threw him into a chair at the far end of the table. His hands were zip-tied behind his back. His face was bruised. He glared at everyone in the room with pure hatred. Some of you know what happened last night, Luca said. He stood at the head of the table, hands resting on the back of a chair. Someone tried to kill me outside my gates. A hired shooter. Professional. The attempt failed, but it should not have happened at all. He looked around the room, making eye contact with each person. For weeks, I have been investigating a betrayal within my organization. I believed someone was working with our enemies, selling information, undermining my authority, and I was right. Luca pointed at Marco, my cousin, the man I trusted most in this world, the man I called my brother. He has been working with the Castellanos for 3 years. He has been stealing from our operations. He has been planning to take over my empire. And last night, he tried to have me killed. Gasps filled the room. Men turned to stare at Marco. Some looked shocked. Others looked angry. Marco said nothing. He just sat there, staring at the table. I have proof, Luca continued. Phone records, financial transactions, recordings of meetings, everything I need to prove his guilt. Adrian has compiled a full report. Anyone who wants to see it can review it after this meeting. Luca walked slowly around the table. For 10 years, I have built this empire on one principle. Loyalty. I have rewarded those who are loyal. I have protected those who are loyal. And I have destroyed those who betray me. He stopped behind Marco's chair. Normally, I would kill a traitor immediately. No trial. No second chances. Just a bullet and a shallow grave. He paused. But not this time. Everyone looked confused. Elena felt her stomach tighten. What was Luca doing? This time, I am going to do something different, Luca said. I am going to give each of you a choice. He walked back to the head of the table. This empire is built on blood and violence. On fear and power. For 20 years, my family has controlled Chicago through intimidation and force. We have hurt people, killed people, destroyed lives. And for what? Money? Territory? Respect? Luca's voice was calm, but underneath, Elena heard something breaking. I am tired, he said quietly. I am tired of killing. I am tired of watching my back every second of every day. I am tired of trusting no one. I am tired of being the monster everyone fears. He looked directly at Elena. Someone once told me that power without love destroys everything it touches. I did not understand what that meant. But now I do. Luca turned back to the others. I am going to dismantle this empire. Piece by piece. Operation by operation. Territory by territory. I am going to shut it all down. The room exploded. Men jumped to their feet. Voices shouted over each other. Someone slammed a fist on the table. Quiet. Luca's voice cut through the chaos like a blade. Everyone fell silent. I am not asking for your permission, Luca said. I am telling you what is going to happen. Over the next 72 hours, I will liquidate every operation. I will sell our territories to whoever wants them. I will transfer money to legitimate accounts and help our civilian employees find new jobs. I will hand evidence to federal authorities about our illegal activities. All of it. You are insane, someone whispered. Maybe, Luca agreed, but I am also done. Done with this life. Done with this violence. Done with pretending I am building something worth keeping. He looked around the room. Each of you has a choice. You can stay and help me end this properly. Help me make sure innocent people are protected. Help me make sure the transition is clean. If you do, I will give you money and new identities. You can start over somewhere else. Somewhere safe. He paused. Or you can leave right now. Walk out that door. I will not stop you. I will not hunt you. You are free to go. No one moved. There is a third option, Luca continued. You can fight me. Try to stop me. Try to kill me and take over what is left. But if you choose that option, you should know that I have already sent copies of all our evidence to 5 different federal agencies. If I die, if anything happens to me, that evidence will be released. And everyone in this room will spend the rest of their lives in prison. Still, no one moved. You have 1 minute to decide, Luca said. Stay, leave, or fight. Choose. 60 seconds of silence. The longest minute of Alina's life. Then someone stood up. It was Carlo, one of the older men. He had been with the Moretti family for 30 years. I am staying, he said. I am tired too. Tired of killing. Tired of running. If you are giving me a chance to walk away clean, I will take it. Another man stood. I am staying too. One by one, they stood. 10 men. Then 15. Then 20. Only 3 men remained seated. They looked at each other. Then they stood and walked out without a word. Luca watched them go. Then he looked at those who remained. Thank you, he said simply. Now, let us burn this empire to the ground. They had 3 days to destroy what had taken 20 years to build. It should have been impossible. But Luca Moretti was very good at the impossible. The first call went to the Rossetti family. Victor Rossetti answered on the second ring. Luca, he said. His voice was wary. The Rossettis and the Morettis had been rivals for a decade. This is unexpected. I have a business proposition, Luca said. He sat in his study with Elena beside him and Adrian at the computer. I am selling my territory on the south side. All of it. The warehouses. The docks. The distribution routes. Everything. Silence on the other end. You're selling? Victor finally said. Why? Because I am done. And I would rather sell to you than let it go to someone worse. Are you interested? How much? 10 million. Victor laughed. That territory is worth 50 million at least. I know. Do you want it or not? Another pause. What is the catch? No catch. Clean sale. Cash only. You take over operations within 48 hours. I walk away. No war. No retaliation. Done. I do not understand. You do not have to understand. You just have to say yes or no. Yes, Victor said quickly. Yes. I will take it. Good. My accountant will contact you with the details. Luca hung up and moved to the next name on the list. By midnight, he had sold 5 territories. By dawn, he had sold 8. By noon the next day, the Moretti empire had been carved up and distributed to 4 different families. 48 hours of phone calls and negotiations that would normally take months. But Luca was not negotiating. He was burning bridges, closing doors, making sure there was nothing left to come back to. Next came the money. Adrian worked on the computers, transferring funds from hidden accounts to legitimate businesses. Money that had been earned through crime was now going to restaurants, construction companies, shipping firms. To the employees who had worked for Moretti fronts without knowing they were working for criminals. How much are we giving away? Adrian asked. All of it, Luca said. All of it? Boss, that is over $200 million. I know. If you keep even 10%, you could retire comfortably. You could disappear. Start a new life. I do not want money earned through violence, Luca said quietly. I want to be able to sleep at night. Adrian looked at him for a long moment. Then he nodded and kept typing. Elena watched all of this from the corner of the study. She had not said much. Just sat there, witnessing the dismantling of an empire. Why are you doing this? She asked when they were alone. Luca turned to look at her. You know why. I need to hear you say it. Luca walked over to her. He sat down in the chair beside hers. Close enough that she could feel the heat from his body. Close enough that she could see the exhaustion in his eyes. I am doing this because I was wrong, he said. About everything. I thought power would keep me safe. I thought money would make me happy. I thought if I built something big enough, strong enough, untouchable enough, I would finally feel like I mattered. He looked down at his hands. But I was miserable. Every day. Every night. I lived in a mansion and felt like I was in prison. I had everything and felt like I had nothing. He looked back at her. And then you came back. And you threw yourself in front of a bullet for me. And I realized something. What? That I have been dead for 15 years. I have been walking and talking and breathing, but I have not been alive. Not really. Not since you left. Elena felt tears burning in her eyes. You were the only person who ever saw me as human, Luca continued. The only person who cared whether I was happy or sad. The only person who asked me how I felt instead of what I wanted. He reached out and took her hand. I am doing this because I do not want to be the boss anymore. I do not want to be feared. I do not want to spend the rest of my life looking over my shoulder, wondering who is going to betray me next. His grip tightened. I want to be the person you believed I could be. The boy you raised. The man you loved. Elena could not hold back the tears anymore. They spilled down her cheeks. I never stopped loving you, she whispered. Even when I left. Even when I was living on the streets. I loved you every single day. Luca pulled her close. Carefully, gently, mindful of her injured shoulder. She buried her face in his chest and cried. All the pain. All the fear. All the loneliness of 15 years pouring out at once. And Luca held her. Just held her. The way she used to hold him when he was a child. The way someone holds the most precious thing in their world. Outside the window, the sun was setting. The sky turned orange and pink and purple. Beautiful and fleeting. Just like empires. Just like power. Just like everything except love. The attack came at 3:47 a.m. on the third day. Elena woke to the sound of breaking glass. Then gunfire. Then screams. She bolted upright in bed, pain shooting through her shoulder. Her mind cleared instantly, years of training kicking in before she was fully conscious. Someone was attacking the estate. She grabbed the gun Luca had left on the bedside table. He had given it to her 2 days ago after Marco was locked in the basement. Just in case, he had said. Just in case had arrived. Elena moved to the door, checking the hallway. Empty. But she could hear more gunshots coming from downstairs. Lots of them. This was not a single shooter. This was an assault. She ran toward Luca's room. The door was open. The bed was empty. Fear grabbed her chest. Luca, she shouted. No answer. More gunshots. Closer now. Elena moved down the hallway, gun raised, checking corners. She had done this before. In another life. When she had worked for an intelligence agency that officially did not exist. That was the life she had left behind to become a nanny. The life she had walked away from to raise Luca after his parents died. But some training never leaves you. She reached the top of the stairs. Below, she could see bodies. Guards. Dead. Blood spreading across the marble floor. And she could see armed men moving through the house. At least 10 of them. Maybe more. Professional. Organized. Hunting. Hunting for Luca. Elena descended the stairs silently, staying in the shadows. One of the attackers moved past her hiding spot without seeing her. She waited until he was 2 steps ahead. Then she moved, one hand over his mouth. One hand with the knife she had taken from a fallen guard. Quick, clean, silent. He dropped. Elena took his weapon. A better gun. More ammunition. She moved deeper into the house. She found Adrian in the security office, surrounded by broken monitors and sparking electronics. He was wounded. Blood soaked through his shirt. But he was alive. Elena, he gasped. They cut the power. Cut the communications. This was planned. Where is Luca? Medical wing. He went to check on Marco. Of course he did. Even after everything, Luca could not just leave his cousin to die in a locked room. Elena ran. The medical wing was in chaos. More bodies. More blood. Someone had unlocked Marco's door. The room was empty. And in the operating theater, she found him. Luca stood with his back against the wall, gun in hand, facing 3 armed men. He had already killed 2. Their bodies lay at his feet. But he was outnumbered. And behind the 3 men, Marco stood with a gun pointed at Luca's head. You should have killed me when you had the chance, Marco said. Now you are going to die. And I am going to take everything. Elena did not hesitate. She shot the first attacker in the head. Turned. Shot the second in the chest. Turned again. The third man spun toward her, raising his weapon. Luca shot him before he could fire. Marco stood frozen, staring at Elena. At the woman who had just killed 2 men in 3 seconds. At the nanny who was not a nanny at all. You, Marco whispered. You are the reason everything fell apart. You are the reason. I am the reason you failed, Elena said. Her voice was cold, hard, the voice of someone who had done terrible things and would do them again if necessary. And I would do it all again. For him. Marco raised his gun, pointed it at Elena. Luca shot him. The bullet hit Marco in the shoulder, spinning him around. He fell, screaming, clutching the wound. Luca walked over to him. Looked down at the cousin he had loved. The man who had betrayed everything. I am not going to kill you, Luca said quietly. Because you do not deserve a quick death. You deserve prison. You deserve to spend the rest of your life knowing you lost. He turned to Elena. Are you hurt? No. You? No. Outside, sirens wailed, getting closer. Someone had called the police. Or maybe the police had been watching the estate, waiting for an opportunity. It did not matter anymore. Luca took Elena's hand. We need to leave. Now. They ran through the burning estate. Ran past bodies and broken glass and smoke. Ran out the back entrance where Adrian had managed to get an SUV running. Go, Adrian said. He was barely standing, but he opened the driver's door. I will hold them off. Adrian, go. Luca got behind the wheel. Elena jumped into the passenger seat. The SUV roared to life. They crashed through the back gate, metal screaming as it tore apart. Behind them, the Moretti estate burned. Flames reached into the night sky, devouring everything Luca had built. And Luca did not look back. He drove through the empty streets of Chicago, snow falling again, covering the city in white. Elena sat beside him, bleeding from a cut on her cheek she had not noticed until now. Where are we going? She asked. Away, Luca said. Far away from here. Far away from all of this. The police will be looking for us. I know. They will find us eventually. I know. Elena looked at him, at the man who had given up everything. At the boy she had raised who had finally become the person she always knew he could be. I love you, she said. Luca looked at her, and for the first time in 15 years, he smiled. A real smile. Not the cold smile of a mafia boss. But the warm smile of a man who had finally found his way home. I love you too, he said. I always have. The SUV disappeared into the night. Into the snow. Into a future that was uncertain and dangerous and absolutely worth it. Because love was worth everything. Even empires. They drove for 3 hours before stopping. A small hospital on the outskirts of Chicago. Public. Crowded. The kind of place where no one asked questions if you paid cash. Elena's shoulder had started bleeding again. Luca's ribs were bruised from where he had been thrown against a wall. They walked into the emergency room looking like survivors of a war zone. Which, in a way, they were. A tired nurse took one look at them and sighed. Another gang fight? Car accident, Luca said. He placed $5,000 in cash on her desk. We would like to be seen quickly. And we would prefer privacy. The nurse looked at the money. Looked at them. Looked at the money again. Follow me. They were taken to a private room in the back. A young doctor, maybe 30 years old, came in to examine them. He did not comment on the bullet wound in Elena's shoulder. He did not comment on the bruises covering Luca's body. He just did his job. 2 hours later, they were stitched and bandaged and back in the SUV. We cannot stay in Chicago, Elena said. Every police department in the state will be looking for us by morning. I know. Where do we go? Luca thought for a moment. Then he said something that surprised even himself. Nowhere. What? We go nowhere. We turn ourselves in. Elena stared at him. Are you insane? If you turn yourself in, you will spend the rest of your life in prison. Maybe. Or maybe not. Luca pulled the SUV into an empty parking lot and turned to face her. I have spent the last 3 days dismantling my empire. Selling territories. Transferring money. Protecting innocent people. I have proof of everything Marco did. I have proof of his alliance with the Castellanos. I have proof that he tried to kill me. That does not change what you did, Elena said gently. You ran a criminal organization for 10 years. You hurt people. The law does not care about your redemption arc. I know. But the law does care about cooperation. About evidence. About someone who is willing to testify against organized crime families. Elena began to understand. You want to make a deal, she said. Yes. A deal. I give them everything. Names. Locations. Evidence they could never get on their own. In exchange, they give me reduced charges. Maybe a few years in prison instead of life. Maybe witness protection when I get out. And what about me? Luca reached out and took her hand. You get immunity. Full immunity. You were never part of my organization. You were an innocent woman trying to protect someone she loved. You were a victim, not a criminal. They cannot touch you. I killed people tonight, Luca. 2 men. Maybe more. Self-defense. You were protecting yourself during an attack. Any lawyer could argue that successfully. Elena wanted to argue, wanted to tell him this was insane. But she could see the determination in his eyes. This was not a man running from justice. This was a man running toward it. Are you sure about this? She asked quietly. No, Luca admitted, but I am sure about one thing. I am done running. I am done hiding. I am done living in fear. If I have to spend a few years in prison to finally be free, then that is what I will do. He squeezed her hand. And when I get out, you will be waiting for me. Right? Elena felt tears in her eyes again. Right, then let us finish this. They drove to the federal building downtown. The sun was just beginning to rise, painting the sky orange and gold. A new day. A new beginning. Luca parked the SUV directly in front of the entrance. He and Elena got out and walked up the steps. At the door, 2 security guards stopped them. This building does not open to the public until 8 a.m., one of them said. I need to speak to Detective Maya Reynolds, Luca said. Tell her Luca Moretti is here to confess. The guards looked at each other. One of them spoke quickly into his radio. 3 minutes later, Detective Maya Reynolds appeared. She was in her 40s, with dark hair pulled back in a tight bun and eyes that missed nothing. She had been investigating the Moretti family for 6 years. Had tried everything to bring them down. And now the head of the family was standing in her lobby. Luca Moretti, she said. Her voice was cautious. This is unexpected. I imagine it is, Luca replied calmly. I would like to make a deal, detective. I will give you everything you need to dismantle organized crime in Chicago. Every family. Every operation, every dirty cop and corrupt politician. Everything. Maya studied him carefully. And what do you want in return? Reduced charges. A few years instead of life. And full immunity for this woman. He gestured to Elena. She is a witness. She has evidence about crimes that happened 15 years ago. Evidence you will want to see. Maya looked at Elena. At the bandages. At the exhaustion in her eyes. At the way she stood close to Luca, protective even now. Come with me, Maya said finally. They followed her through security checkpoints and locked doors. Down a long hallway. Into an interrogation room with gray walls and a metal table. Maya sat down across from them. Before we begin, she said, I need to read you your rights. I waive my rights, Luca said. I want to confess. I want to cooperate. And I want to do it now, before I change my mind. Maya looked at him for a long moment. Then she pulled out a recording device and pressed the button. This is Detective Maya Reynolds, conducting an interview with Luca Moretti on December 17. Mr. Moretti, can you state your full name for the record? Luca Antonio Moretti. And do you understand that you are here voluntarily? Yes. And do you understand that anything you say can be used against you in a court of law? Yes. Maya leaned forward. Then let us begin. Luca talked for 6 hours. He told them everything. About his father's criminal empire. About how he took over at 17. About the territories, the money laundering, the illegal operations. About the people he had hurt. The people he had killed. He did not make excuses. Did not try to justify his actions. He simply told the truth. And then he told them about Marco. About the betrayal. About the alliance with the Castellanos. About the murders that went back 15 years. About David Cross, Alina's brother, killed because he discovered the truth. He gave them phone records. Bank statements. Recordings. Names. Dates. Locations. Everything. Maya Reynolds sat across from him, taking notes, occasionally stopping to ask questions. Beside her, 3 other federal agents listened in silence. And in the corner, a prosecutor watched with sharp, calculating eyes. When Luca finally finished, the room was silent. That is quite a confession, Maya said. It is the truth. Why now? Why come forward after 10 years? Luca looked at Elena, who sat beside him. She had not spoken during the entire interview. Just sat there, holding his hand. Because I realized something, Luca said quietly. Power without love destroys everything it touches. I had all the power in the world. But I had no love. No peace. No happiness. I was a king of ashes sitting on a throne of bones. He turned back to Maya. I want to be free, detective. Really free. Not hiding behind walls and guns and fear. Just free. And the only way to do that is to face what I have done. To accept the consequences. To pay the price. Maya studied him for a long time. You understand that even with cooperation, you're looking at significant prison time? I understand. You understand that the families you are testifying against will want you dead? I understand. You understand that your life as you knew it is over? Yes, Luca said, and he smiled. That is exactly what I want. Maya looked at the prosecutor. They had a silent conversation with their eyes. Then Maya turned back to Luca. We need time to verify everything you have told us. To investigate. To build cases. That will take weeks. Maybe months. I will help however I can. You will be held in federal custody during that time. Protective custody. No bail. I understand. And her? Maya nodded toward Elena. What is her involvement in all of this? None, Luca said firmly. She was a witness. She gathered evidence against Marco Moretti for crimes he committed 15 years ago. She saved my life. She is innocent of any wrongdoing. Maya looked at Elena. Is that true? Elena finally spoke. Her voice was steady, strong. 15 years ago, my brother David Cross was murdered by Marco Moretti. I spent the next 15 years gathering proof. I never participated in any criminal activity. I never helped the Moretti organization. I only watched. And waited. And when the time came, I saved Luca's life because he was innocent of my brother's death. She met Maya's eyes. I did what I had to do to get justice for my brother. Nothing more. Nothing less. Maya was silent for a moment. Then she nodded. We will need to verify your story as well. But if everything you have said is true, then you have committed no crime. Self-defense is legal. Gathering evidence is legal. You will be free to go once we have completed our investigation. Elena's shoulders sagged with relief. Thank you, she whispered. Maya stood up. Mr. Moretti, you will be transferred to a federal facility within the hour. You will have limited communication with the outside world. No visitors except your lawyer. No phone calls except those approved by us. I understand. And you, Maya looked at Elena. You will need to stay in Chicago for the time being. We will need to interview you multiple times. And you may be called to testify in court. I will be here, Elena said. Maya nodded. Then she gestured to the two guards standing at the door. Take him. The guards approached Luca. One of them pulled out handcuffs. Elena's hand tightened around Luca's. She did not want to let go. Did not want to watch him walk away in chains. But she had to. Luca looked at her one last time. Wait for me, he said softly. I will wait forever if I have to, Elena replied. He smiled. Then he leaned forward and kissed her forehead. Gentle. Tender. The kiss of a man saying goodbye but not farewell. The guards cuffed his wrists. Led him toward the door. Elena watched him go. Watched until he disappeared around the corner. Watched until she could no longer hear his footsteps. And then she was alone. The trial took 8 months to prepare. 8 months of interviews and depositions and legal maneuvering. 8 months of watching news reports about the dismantling of Chicago's organized crime families. 8 months of reading headlines about arrests and convictions and prison sentences. The Castellano family was destroyed. Anthony Castellano was arrested along with 15 of his top people. They faced charges ranging from racketeering to murder. Marco Moretti was arrested in the hospital where he was recovering from his gunshot wound. He was charged with conspiracy to commit murder, embezzlement, and a dozen other crimes. His trial was scheduled for next year. And Luca remained in federal custody. Cooperating, testifying, helping the government build cases that would put away criminals for decades. Elena visited him twice. That was all they allowed. The first time was in a small room with a glass partition between them. They spoke through phones, looking at each other but unable to touch. How are you? Elena asked. I am alive, Luca replied. That is enough. Are they treating you well? Well enough. The other inmates do not like me very much. They know I am cooperating with the feds. But I am in protective custody. I do not see them often. Good. They sat in silence for a moment. Just looking at each other. Memorizing faces. Storing memories. I miss you, Luca said quietly. I miss you too. How much longer? The prosecutor says your sentencing hearing is in 2 months. After you finish testifying in the Castellano trial. And then? Elena smiled. A sad smile. And then you will be sentenced. The prosecutor is recommending 5 years with possibility of parole after 3. Because of your cooperation. 5 years. Luca leaned back in his chair. I can do 5 years. I will wait. You should not have to wait. You should live your life. Find someone else. Be happy. I am happy, Elena said. I am happy knowing you are alive. I am happy knowing you did the right thing. I am happy knowing that when you get out, we will have the rest of our lives together. You are a stubborn woman, Elena Cross. I learned from the best. They smiled at each other. Two people separated by glass but connected by something stronger than walls or bars or time. The second visit was 1 week before the sentencing hearing. This time, they were allowed to sit in the same room. No glass partition, no phones, just 2 chairs and a guard standing in the corner. Elena sat down across from Luca. He looked thinner, older. Prison was wearing on him. But his eyes were clear. At peace. I have something to tell you, Elena said. What? I found a job. Teaching. At a community center in the Ashland district. Luca's eyes widened. The Ashland district? That is where we grew up. I know. That is why I chose it. I want to help kids who are growing up the way we did. Kids who need someone to believe in them. You will be amazing at that. I hope so. Elena reached across the table and took his hand. The guard did not stop her. When you get out, I want you to help me. I want us to build something together. Not an empire. Just something good. Something that helps people instead of hurting them. Luca looked down at their joined hands. I would like that, he said softly. I would like that very much. They sat together for the rest of the hour. Not talking much. Just being together. Holding hands. Breathing the same air. And when the guard said it was time to go, they said goodbye without tears. Because this was not an ending. It was just a pause. The sentencing hearing took place on a cold morning in March. The courtroom was packed. Federal agents, prosecutors, defense attorneys, reporters, and in the back row, Elena sat alone, her hands folded in her lap. Luca was brought in wearing an orange jumpsuit and handcuffs. He looked calm, ready. The judge was an older woman with gray hair and sharp eyes. She had presided over organized crime cases for 20 years. She had seen everything. Mr. Moretti, she said, you have pleaded guilty to multiple charges including racketeering, money laundering, and conspiracy. You face a maximum sentence of 40 years in federal prison. Luca stood. Yes, Your Honor. However, you have also cooperated extensively with federal investigators. Your testimony has led to the arrest and conviction of over 30 individuals involved in organized crime. Your information has helped dismantle several criminal organizations. She paused. The prosecution has recommended a reduced sentence of 5 years with possibility of parole after 3. Do you have anything to say before I make my decision? Luca was silent for a moment. Then he spoke. Your Honor, I do not deserve mercy. I have hurt people. I have done terrible things. I have lived a life that caused pain and suffering to innocent people. His voice was steady, clear, but I want to be better. I want to spend the rest of my life trying to fix what I broke. I want to help people instead of hurting them. I want to be the person I should have been from the beginning. He looked back at Elena. At the woman who had saved him in every way a person could be saved. I want to be worthy of love. The judge followed his gaze. Saw Elena sitting there, her eyes full of tears but her face full of hope. Mr. Moretti, the judge said, I have been a judge for a very long time. I have seen a lot of criminals stand where you are standing. Most of them make promises they do not keep. They say they want to change. They say they are sorry. But the moment they are released, they go right back to their old lives. She leaned forward. I do not think you are like them. I think you genuinely want to change. I think you have already started changing. And I think you deserve a chance to prove it. She picked up her gavel. I sentence you to 4 years in federal prison with eligibility for parole after 2 years. In addition, you will serve 3 years of supervised release after your prison term. You will be prohibited from associating with known criminals. You will be required to perform community service. And you will be required to speak to at-risk youth about the consequences of crime. She banged the gavel. Court is adjourned. Luca closed his eyes. 4 years. 2 until parole. He could do that. The guards moved to take him away. But before they did, Luca turned one last time to look at Elena. Wait for me, he mouthed. Always, she mouthed back. And then he was gone. 2 years and 3 months later. The bus pulled up to the corner of Ashland Street. The doors opened, and Luca Moretti stepped out into the bright sunshine of a Chicago summer afternoon. He wore simple clothes, jeans, a white t-shirt, sneakers, nothing expensive, nothing flashy, just the clothes of a man starting over. He looked around. The neighborhood had changed. New buildings, fresh paint, a playground where there used to be an empty lot. And at the end of the street stood a building with a sign out front. Ashland Hope Center, Youth Programs and Community Services. Luca walked toward it slowly. His heart was pounding. His hands were shaking. He had been released from prison 3 days ago. Had spent those 3 days in a halfway house, adjusting to freedom. But this was the first place he wanted to go. He pushed open the door. Inside, the center was full of life. Children's laughter, adults talking, the smell of food cooking somewhere in the back. On the walls hung photographs and drawings made by kids. Hope, joy, life. Can I help you? A young woman at the front desk looked up at him. I am looking for Elena Cross, Luca said. Ms. Cross is teaching a class right now. It should be finishing up in about 5 minutes. You can wait in the common room if you like. Thank you. Luca walked into the common room. It was bright and welcoming. Comfortable chairs, bookshelves, a table where teenagers were doing homework together. And then he saw her. Elena emerged from a classroom down the hall. She was talking to a young girl, maybe 10 years old, encouraging her about something. She wore jeans and a simple sweater. Her hair was longer than it used to be. Her face was relaxed, happy. She looked up. Their eyes met. Time stopped. Elena's hand went to her mouth. Tears immediately filled her eyes. The little girl looked between them, confused. Miss Cross? The girl asked. Are you okay? Yes, Elena whispered. Yes, I am very okay. She walked toward Luca slowly. As if she was afraid he might disappear if she moved too fast. As if he might be a dream. But he was real. They stopped a foot apart. Just looking at each other. Two people who had been through hell and had somehow found their way back. You are early, Elena said, her voice shaking. They said you would not be released for another 3 months. Good behavior, Luca replied. And a very persuasive parole officer. You should have called. I would have been there to pick you up. I wanted to surprise you. Elena laughed. It was a sound like music. Like sunlight. Like everything good in the world. You surprised me, she said. They stood there for another moment. Not touching. Not speaking. Just breathing the same air. Being in the same space. And then Luca said, I am free, Elena. Really free. For the first time in my life. I know. And I do not want to waste another second. He reached out and took her hand. The same way he had 2 years ago. The same way he had done 100 times in his life. But this time felt different. This time, there were no walls between them. No secrets. No empire. No power. No fear. Just two people who had found their way back to each other. I love you, Luca said. I have loved you since I was 7 years old and you made me breakfast and told me everything would be okay. I loved you when you left. I loved you when I thought I would never see you again. I loved you in prison. And I will love you for the rest of my life. Elena was crying openly now. But she was smiling too. I love you too, she whispered. I have always loved you. And I always will. Luca pulled her close. Carefully. Gently. And for the first time in 15 years, he held the woman he loved. They stood there in the middle of the Ashland Hope Center, surrounded by children and laughter and hope. Two people who had destroyed an empire to find each other. Two people who had learned that power means nothing without love. Two people who had finally come home. Outside, the sun shone bright and warm. The snow had melted months ago. Spring had turned to summer. And in the Ashland district, where hope had once gone to die, a new kind of power was growing. The power of love. The power of redemption. The power of second chances. And in that moment, Luca Moretti understood something he had never understood before. Real power is not about ruling. It is not about fear or money or control. Real power is about choosing love when hate would be easier. About choosing to rebuild when destroying would be simpler. About choosing to become better when staying the same would be more comfortable. Real power is freedom. And for the first time in his life, Luca was truly, completely, absolutely free. Closing message. Power without love destroys everything it touches. But love without power is just as lost. True strength comes from choosing to use power for love, not the other way around. Luca Moretti destroyed an empire to save one person. Would you? Can someone who has done terrible things become someone good? Do people like Luca deserve redemption? Or is some damage permanent? If this story touched your heart, please subscribe to our channel, hit the like button, and share it with someone you care about. Leave a comment below. We want to hear what you think. Does everyone deserve a second chance? Can love truly change a person? Tell us your story. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. And remember, it is never too late to choose love over power. Never too late to come home. We will see you in the next story.